Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
ScreamingBox Technology and Business Rundown!
All right, welcome to the ScreamingBox Technology and Business Rundown, episode number 3. Today we're going to be talking about the new Google Meets and cybersecurity and how it affects business and technology. And I have Botan and Iman with me today, and we will start this discussion. So what do you guys think? Have you looked at the new Google Meets? What do you think? Any opinions?
Yeah, I like this new feature. So they have like added few features like about the language and the captions. So it seems that part is pretty interesting with the different languages.
Yes. I thought one of the things that was really interesting about what they're doing, if you look at it, they're aiming this service basically for kind of like a hub for planning projects and collaborating with other people. But they're doing it with not just business, but even if you have just a standard, normal Google or Gmail account, you can use all the accesses, all the apps and everything that's in the new Google Meet and the new Google apps. So they're really trying to give it so that individuals have the same access as business to those type of tools. And I think that's a really neat approach. I think it's going to help them gather a lot of users.
That's actually right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, everyone can experience it without like paying for the extra, the subscriptions and all that. They can experience and they can figure out if they would like it. Then they can go ahead, even if they want to use it for their business or for their personal meetings. Like people do that too. My family use Google Meet sometimes because they think it's easy because everyone has Gmail account. It's super easy. They just need to like download an app and they can experience the same things.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my experience with Google has always been that of business. I don't know, Botan, as a developer, do you really use Google much in your work or not really?
Well, search engine, of course, but other than that, as the other products that Google has, like Pages, and I don't even know the names of the products, to be honest with you. I rarely ever use them. So since I'm mainly a .NET developer, so we are kind of forced into, or not forced into, but logged into a contract with Microsoft, and they have all of these products that do essentially the same thing, only a bit worse. So
Yeah. There's a real competition at this point between Google and Microsoft. Google kind of had an advantage, and then Microsoft came out with Teams, where they put a lot of Microsoft products like Excel and Outlook and Word and all that into Teams. Google has it for their stuff. The Google version of those apps are kind of watered down versions. So Google Sheets is the same as Excel, but Excel obviously has a lot more power and a lot more functionality than Google Sheets. But as far as business is concerned, we use Google Sheets for all of our internal business documents and talking to people about that. But my daughter now, who's 8 years old, she has a Google account, and she knows how to put some data into a spreadsheet. It's very simplified. I haven't taught her how to make formulas because I don't want her to cheat on her homework. But she puts
That's
in
cute.
names and other things in a spreadsheet. She understands, and she'll share it with me, and I can look at it. And same with Docs, Google Docs, which is the same as Microsoft Word in many ways. So even I can see from a personal standpoint that I guess people will use it on a consumer level. But my experience has always been that of business. Um, so I think it's going in an interesting direction. And but Google's new update, they really wanted to focus on Gmail, and they really updated Gmail to get in line with Slack and Microsoft Teams, adding some of those features. I don't know. Slack has a pretty big following for that application. I don't know if people are going to switch over to the Gmail version of Slack, but you never know. There are a lot of companies who are committed to Google Apps, and they may do that. Um, but they're definitely using Gmail as kind of their command center per se.
Well, the interesting thing about Slack is it feels like they had the whole market cornered about 10 years ago. And
Uh-huh.
now, where are they? Like, everyone uses Facebook Messenger and, like, I don't know, Viber, WhatsApp, all of these different things, Microsoft Teams, Google Meets, all that. And I still feel like that Slack is a great experience. And I do hear that it has a cult following, especially in certain agencies and companies. But it's really strange to see. It's very similar to how Skype uh, had complete dominance on the video and
Yeah.
audio call markets, and they just lost it.
Yeah, it was really my experience with Skype was actually through gaming. A lot of the gamers were using Skype, 15 years ago, 10
Yeah,
years
same.
ago, and then all of a sudden it went to another platform, right?
Yep.
Um, I don't know. It's a real challenge for everybody in business. The biggest challenge we're finding is that everybody's on different communication platforms. I don't use Skype at all. If people want to talk to me, they have to send me an email. Maybe I'll do a text message. I don't even have a preference for text message, but if somebody does WhatsApp, I happen to have it on my phone. I get a notification. Facebook Messenger again. Old people use Facebook, so I use it, and I get messages from people for business on my personal Facebook because they're connected somehow. Um, but as a company, we don't have a single communication platform. It's like, well, try to contact me here, and if I don't answer, contact me on this one. If I don't answer, contact me on this one. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a big business challenge in the future for companies to have a unified communication platform, right? And I think Google is going in the right direction. They're trying to make a unified communication platform. As to whether people will accept it or not, that's a different question.
Are you familiar with Discord at all?
No?
Like, it's a small application. It's been growing over the past couple of years, and it feels like there's a new platform, kind of. So it does essentially the same thing as Skype did ages ago, but with a new twist. So it's sort of a merge between TeamSpeak and Skype and Slack, I guess. Maybe a bit of Microsoft Teams sprinkled in. So on one platform, you have the ability to create servers where you can invite people, either approve or ban them, or just invite an entire slew of people into an organizational server. And the amazing thing is that on the same server, you have the ability to create as many chat rooms as you want. Well, provided you want to pay for it, of course. But uh, just the sheer fact that you are able to do this, you have the possibility to do this, and you can also just join ad hoc calls as well. So I've been seeing it grow from this niche thing to pretty much every YouTuber having their own Discord server. So I feel like companies are really sleeping on this one because it is an amazing platform, and I've yet to see a single company utilize it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely something to look at. There are so many different platforms out there to solve these kind of communication challenges that companies have and businesses have. And it's always different because clearly, even with us or my experience, the developers are using other communication platforms, and the business side is using different ones, right? And for me, the only reason that we're using Google, in all honesty, is when I was doing business and traveling overseas, uh, Skype quality was awful, and the calls were awful, and it was hard, and Google's quality was much better. So we just happened to use Google Meets for calls and conference calls and all that 10 years ago, simply because the quality was better and the lines wouldn't drop, and people wouldn't break up, and so we abandoned Skype because of that, and just stuck with Google, not because it's the best or not because it had everything, but it worked better than Skype. And then Skype obviously has kind of disappeared. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who still use it, but we don't.
I think I have
Mm, that,
like 4 different Skype accounts because every time, remember they offered like desktop app, and it would take a while to load first of all, and then you gotta put your username and everything, and then it's gonna take another while to like load the whole app. I know it was so awful, and every time I would just forget my password because I don't use it. I use like after years, someone asked me that I gotta like make a new account, then I just happen to never use it again. Yeah, so I think, yeah, you're right for sure. Like Google Meet, and another thing, like you were talking about the Slack and the Google, if like they will offer something similar to Slack, I feel like people would like it. Like if you can see notifications, like every single person they have a Gmail account, and if you can like access every single thing on one account with one email ID, I think that's very convenient for everyone, good for communication, like you were talking about WhatsApp, like you can see on your phone. Even though WhatsApp wasn't offering a lot in the past, but people happen to use it a lot. Even in my school, everyone was using it. So I think now, even if Google would offer like a little bit, like even not like better than Slack, but even something similar to it, and we can access it through our Gmail account, I think everyone would love it. I mean, it's gonna might take a while because Slack is obviously very well established platform. People have been using it for a very long time. But I think people would still prefer and go towards the Google because it's more convenient for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's going to be a consolidation at some point. The companies, the major businesses, are all going to say to their people, "Look, this is the platform we're going to work with. Right? Don't use these other platforms. Use this platform." It's starting to happen a little bit in large enterprises. I know that they insist, they bring on Microsoft Teams or Google as the platform. That's what you use for all business communications. But enterprise is not, it's 500 or 600 companies around the world. All the small businesses are the ones that are really all over the place. And I think that those smaller businesses, 100 million a year and below businesses, they're just randomly trying things, and their employees use one thing for that, and then they integrate it into the business. And so the business is using 8 communication platforms for all of this business. It can, I think it's going to be really confusing, but obviously Google sees the same thing, and Google's thinking, how do we make Google Meets into a single communication platform for documents and other things. And so we'll see how it goes. They're a company with a lot of resources. Um, I mean, I remember we worked on a project, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, which was the part of Google Hangouts. I guess it was Google Hangouts back then, where they put in location information. Where are people? You can see where they are in Meet and hook up with them. And that was an old Google. That was one of the first things they bought. The company we were working with and integrated it into Hangouts but that feature didn't seem to last long in Hangouts very much. But now it's just part of the Google Meets platform, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Iman, how do you use Google Meets and what you do? Or maybe you can give a little background in what you're kind of doing and how you use Google Meets.
Yeah, so like I have a like I'm a physicist in the background, but I'm transitioning to the software industry. So I'm working as a software engineer now, and about the Google Meet, I do remember in the school and the Google Sheets, in the school they used to provide us a software which were just like a Google Sheets and a Google Meet, where we could like every school has their own software because for the privacy and every other things they're where they want to keep the material. So we used to use that. Now, I personally never use like anything else except Google Meet. Like even if I'm doing for like business and like for personal meetings as well. It's just like even like when we call our family, we use FaceTime. But if someone doesn't have it, so I would prefer um, Google Meet. Like instant, everyone has it; they can just click on it. So I think I only use Google Meet. I don't even really use Zoom that much because every time it just kind of like it feels like Skype to me sometimes. It takes a while to get into there, start it. It takes like a lot of time. Google Meet, one button, you're there. So I feel like that's
Yeah, Zoom exploded because of the pandemic and everyone got popular, but Zoom's very limited because you can't really collaborate with Zoom that much. It's more just about talking and video recording. I think Meets you're able to work on documents together and share stuff. Microsoft Teams, I assume, is similar, although in all honesty, I just have not used it very much. Maybe Botan, does Microsoft Teams have a lot of this communication aspect to it?
I mean, yeah, I think Teams is an awesome tool for collaboration. It's like a paid version of Discord. So they are taking notes. It is working really well. So I use it literally every single day. So if someone is like sharing the screen with you, their screen, and you want to pair program or stuff like that, it's great. It's absolutely seamless. Uh, to be perfectly honest, we literally never use it for video chatting. So I cannot attest to that being good or bad either way. But for collaboration, for sharing files, for just chatting, it is effortless. So they really got it pinned down to a good formula over there at Microsoft.
Yeah, you raised an interesting question, Iman, or topic when you were talking about your school's program and that they were using it for kind of security. Uh, Now that people are doing a lot of work on these platforms that, in essence, are not really controlled by the work environment. For enterprise companies, if they get a version of Teams, they're controlling, their IT department controls every aspect of it. But for a regular business or a smaller business, they may not even be using the business version of the platform, personal version, and that opens up all kinds of cybersecurity issues, as well as data privacy issues and other things. That's going to be a real challenge for these companies, even for someone like Google, securing all this data and keeping it confidential.
Okay. So while I was at the school, they used this like they wouldn't use the Google Sheets because they actually wanted to keep it safe because of the security issues. So my school had their own program, like they have their own software. They would like edit the sheets, and even when we do the online exams, they would like my teacher would like grade it and make comments about it. And even the whole like my courses, they had their own software for that. I think it's because they wanted to keep their software like material secure because if we use something else.
Yeah, schools and businesses are going to have a big challenge cybersecurity. So is enterprise. And that kind of brings it. We've had a lot of cybersecurity issues recently. There was the oil pipeline hack and ransomware situation. A couple of million people got their data stolen from another service. So cybersecurity is really going to be a big issue going forward. I'm kind of surprised at the number of ransomware attacks that have been happening. It's kind of the new bank robbery. Instead of going in and physically robbing a bank, hacker teams are hacking into enterprise software, taking over the systems, and then saying, pay us millions of dollars and we'll give you back control. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on the future of cybersecurity or ransomware? What do you think about these oil pipeline hacks?
Um, yeah, I mean for sure. Yeah, it's very interesting that they actually choosing the places to do this kind of like robbery where we least expect it. I don't know what else.
Yeah, I mean, who thought that somebody would turn off an oil pipeline on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, that is so
Um,
crazy.
but I mean, infrastructure is really important, and it's worth lots of money. And a lot of the infrastructure is run by old software that is, if you hack into it, you're able to own it, and nobody else can use the controllers to control the various physical aspects of either a pipeline, electrical grid. Who knows what they're going to get into next? Um, you know, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Um,
And there was like I did watch this new Netflix series. It's called Startup, and there was a girl who was writing this software from like her whole life, and she wrote it, and she was, she started her own company. I think it was genius. It was just like Bitcoin, and someone had just like asked her to pay and kind of like stolen her whole like code and made another company. So basically, she didn't have the money, so she couldn't do anything. That person was like become millionaire like in a day or so. So yeah, it's kind of an issue because with the software and everything, if I steal it from you, it's like it belongs to both of us. So I think which is like a very big issue that no one is there to even claim it like we can do on the physical properties.
yeah, that's there's ransomware to hold something hostage, but then there's IP theft, and I mean, Botan, I think in the gaming industry, you mentioned once that I think it was AE got broken into or hacked.
All right, like EA Games, they they
Yeah,
got their main game engine like completely copied over, and also they which is Frostbite. But then they also had another thing stolen, which was the source code for the new FIFAs or the new FIFA. And yeah,
right.
so we can expect a lot of new FIFAs coming out of less reputable companies
This
in the
makes
near
sense
future.
because there was a time the Candy Crush was very popular game on App Store. And if you Google it, like if you go to App Store now, you can find like 100 like similar games to that, like a little bit of difference, but they're all there. I think that makes a sense. Like he was saying that, they're gonna be like a lot of FIFA games with a different names or maybe different little bit, the graphics or something. So yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of like copying issues going on with the security.
Yeah, well, I mean, it used to be that people would kind of hack into a system and the hackers would leave some kind of funny message, or, the challenge was to just get into the system, but not really destroy anything or steal anything. But I think now it's become a more organized business. I think that there are hacker teams out there whose sole purpose is to break into systems and to steal and to hold for ransomware whatever they can. It is organized crime at this point, and it's global. And companies are really going to have to take a look, not just enterprise companies, but even small companies and small businesses. are really going to have to try to figure out how do they protect themselves from these hackers. I mean, I don't know, what are things that companies can do to kind of protect themselves from these hacker teams besides trying to just keep a low profile? Is there stuff that they can do for their systems that will help prevent these hacks?
Yeah, and even like the smaller companies, even I would say the local business, like which are very small, which just started, and growing up. So I would say like they are not even aware of this issue because these are the kind of issues which we think that they happen to someone, we read it, unless it happens to us, then we're gonna do something about it. It's like that kind of issue. Like small business are not even aware of this problem.
Yeah, I think enterprise is focused on it, but enterprise has a lot of money and big tools. Small businesses, I mean, they can try to keep a low profile, but security is kind of like putting locks on a door. If
Yeah,
somebody really wants to get in, it doesn't matter how many locks they put on your door. They just drive a bulldozer up to your house and punch a hole in the side of a wall. I mean, it's kind of like that with cybersecurity. If somebody really wants into your system, they're just going to keep working at it until they eventually figure it out, right?
that is true. Yeah, that is true. Like I feel like we don't have that kind of team in here. Like we have FBI, we definitely need some that kind of like strong cybersecurity team, which would be like, I feel like it's gonna be the future. We're gonna be more scared or fear about the things which are online, which we have online access to, like online property kind of thing, instead of like physical property. Like people used to keep money at their home. So because now people can even transfer like the money from your account to theirs, and you are just like done. If they have like that kind of access, if it would go that far, I'm sure it can. We do see in the movies. So I think some hackers, even if they don't have the idea now, they're gonna figure out a way to get it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know there's some hacking rings where they basically go around and take a look at banking websites and try different names and dictionary password cracks to find usernames and passwords. And, eventually they get into somebody's account. And at that point, they just transfer money and there's nothing that can be done, right?
That's true.
And, obviously, you could get anyone's usernames and passwords. Just go to the dark web. I mean, so many of them have been stolen that you can probably buy a million usernames and passwords and go through and start, trying to crack into banks and other things with them to get into people's accounts and send money. I'm sure it happens all the time,
It actually
right?
happened to my dad 3 years back. So he was here, his bank is here, his debit card is here, credit card is here. But someone back in India, like, we saw the transaction happen there. We have no idea. He never been to that state. He never been to that place. I'm not sure. And he's the guy, like my dad is kind of guy who changes her password every month just to make sure that, like it doesn't get copied somewhere because sometimes we use Wi-Fi from like public Wi-Fi it get connected to or something. And that happens to him. I mean, technically we got the money back, but this thing is actually possible, like in another country, in another state where he never even been to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the dark web has, everyone. I just assume all my passwords and usernames are on the dark web, right? And, it's just a matter of time before somebody, hits me and does something. And all you can do is change your passwords all the time, but, it's a timing thing if it just doesn't happen, at the right time. I'm not very familiar with what's on the dark web, but I assume you can get anything there, right? Or I think Botan, you were talking once. There's like a bunch of dark webs, or who knows?
Oh yeah, I was just saying probably. I mean, I would bet a lot of money that there are at least five at minimum. Like we have Tor, as I was saying, that's originally a honeypot populated
Hmm.
by a lot of international agencies, but they are mainly monitoring for like terrorist organizations. So you don't really mind if you or I buy a bunch of passwords and we try all of them on Venmo and PayPal. So it's not really the
Hmm.
focus of their surveillance. But even then, I mean, there must be a bunch of other dark webs which deal with much shadier stuff. Like, if you think that the stuff they sell on Tor is shady, I bet you $1 million that there is much more shady stuff going on in different smaller dark webs, just like in the series you mentioned, Iman, like the startup. They, I think in one of the seasons, they start a completely new dark web, which is called Arachnet in the series.
You're right. Yeah, I watched it. I did watch it. They actually built a whole business over there. Did you see that? Like they are actually shipping. And Dave, they wouldn't even know. It's actually USPS. They're actually shipping through the normal companies because they never check.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of business that goes through companies that is probably very illegal. But the amount of transactions that are now happening, it's very hard for these companies to figure out, if they wanted to even find transactions that were not legal, how would they go about it? There's just so much data and so many transactions nowadays.
Exactly.
It's really hard. I mean, I remember I did a hackers hackathon like 2001 for the Association of Internet Professionals that I was a part of, and we had an FBI agent come in and talk about what the FBI was doing back then, and it was very little. And one of the questions was, "Well, if I get hacked, who do I call?" And the FBI agent was like, "Oh, we don't know." Right? Don't call us. We're not working on this stuff on a case by case basis. Call your local police department. And it's like, well, they have no knowledge back then of anything. Even now, if you call the police and say, "Hey, I was hacked and my database was copied or stolen, and what do I, or my IP was stolen. I want to report a theft." I mean, technically, it's a theft, and although physically there was nothing stolen, it was data. I don't think there's a police department that I know of that would be like, "Yeah, we can help you."
Hmm.
Right? I mean, so who do people go to once they're stolen information? How do they, who do they call to say, "Hey, somebody broke into my server and stole my data," right? But it can be worth millions of dollars. It could be really a big impact on your business and what you're doing. I think there's some real, from an infrastructure standpoint, at least in America, but in other countries, there's got to be some place that's focused on cybersecurity, a cybersecurity force that basically can look at all these hacks and try to find the people who are doing the hacking and try to either retrieve or eliminate the problem. Uh,
Oh, did you
you
know
know,
that independent sources actually pin Russia as the number one country for cybersecurity and cyber attacks? Like, they are supposed to be the best in the business, like, even overshadowing organizations like the NSA.
oh, you mean as far as doing cyber attacks and hacking?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, a lot of the major cyber attacks recently have been by Russian hackers or the Russian government. You never know. I mean, they probably work together, some of them, but I think it was what is the government, the U.S. government service that they hacked into? Um, Give me a second here.
yeah, while you looked it up, it's like it happened recently, very recently, I think in the last year. They
Yeah.
practically took a small part of a country over just by blocking all communication in and out. And they sent in,
Solar winds.
oh,
Oh,
The solar wind attack, which they feel is done by the Russians or the Russian government, that went into U.S. Government agencies and stole a bunch of data or tried to steal a bunch of data. That's a really good example of kind of state-sponsored hacking. In those situations, the NSA gets involved and a government agency gets involved. But if you're a U.S. business, even if you're just a standard company that distributes wine, and you have your mail list and it has all the email addresses and names and usernames and all that, and social security numbers or credit card information for your users who buy your wine. Somebody hacks in and gets that, they can sell that. That's real money. I would assume people would buy that database. They could sell it to your competitors, and they probably do that, right?
Hmm.
The real question is for small business SMBs, how do you protect your data? How do you protect yourself from hacking? And what kind of cybersecurity? Yeah, you can buy Norton antivirus for your computer, but that won't prevent a hack, and that won't protect your service. A lot of people are using AWS, Amazon Web Services, and maybe using some other places to stick their data. And then, the good news is, or the good thing for a business is, in theory, Amazon has a lot of resources to protect the services from hacking, but they can't protect it from things like somebody finding your username and password and going into the system, through that, and transferring the data that way. That's not technically a hack. I mean, it's a social engineering hack or something like that, but it's not a breaking in using some other hacking method. I don't know. I don't know if that gives small businesses any protection. Um, I don't know if AWS is actually something that will help small businesses protect their data.
Uh,
Yeah, I think many of them have been using it too. And I honestly feel like if someone wants to hack, even they don't know anything about you, all they need is your Gmail ID and your password, and they're all in. Like even a small communication we had with someone, we have sent a picture of something to someone, even if we applied for something or I applied for something, they ask me for the documents. They're like, hey, can you attach the files? I'm like, okay, yeah. So it's all in there. Even though if I will delete it, it's just still gonna be there. So I think it's so easy for them to access the whole life of one person just through their Gmail ID. If they get the right one with the right password, all they need is that. And even though there was another, I'm not sure if that series there's how much truth into it. But Botan, have you watched a series Facebook where they actually explain the whole life of the Mark Zuckerberg, like how he started? The way he started, he actually broke into the Harvard University's website. He took all the information of all the students from there, and got their email and sent out the invitation. That's how he started. So I'm not sure if one of the lawsuits on him was from there. I'm not sure about his lawsuits, but that was a kind of theft too. He stole all the email, and he was actually mentioning in that too that it's pretty easy to break into it, because if we think about it, sometimes in my school they have sfsu.edu. So while we sign in, we actually give them the access to their Gmail ID too. And I don't think they actually protect about the student's identity and anything that much. So it's if someone can break into their system, it's so easy for them to break into other, my other profiles.
right.
So yeah,
Well, probably one of the best things we can do is to not really reuse passwords, because that's a big thing. If you use the same
yeah,
password and username everywhere, it it's enough if one place gets a leak and you're done. All your info is out there. But also,
yeah,
this might come as a controversial opinion, but I personally find that cybersecurity is a bit of a moot point, because at some point, software has to interface with the real world. So, to come back to the analogy of cybersecurity being like adding locks to a door, you can add the most advanced biometric lock, the best in class servers, the best firewalls, and yet
yeah.
someone comes along with a magnet and just click, the door is open and it's done.
Yeah.
So
I think
social
if there's a
engineering,
door,
as you mentioned, is
yeah,
invaluable.
like Dave was mentioning, if there's a door, there's always an option to open it. If there's an
Yep.
option to open it, there's another option to break it.
Exactly, which means that unless you are somehow doing a piece of business with people that doesn't involve the internet, you have no choice. You get to have a door, and you have to lock it as best you can. I think passwords, usernames, and passwords. Obviously, the basic username, password, security stuff is important. I don't know. The problem people have with passwords is nowadays you need to have so many different platforms and accounts to work on the web and to do your work that you're having to remember 10, 30 passwords. A lot of people do use the same password for a lot of different things. The question is, there are password managers, and there are software that will basically remember all the passwords for you, so that all you have to do is just remember one password, which is to your password manager. I don't know, how good are password managers? Do either of you have any experience with them?
I mean, I'm actually very dependent on them. I don't remember any password. Um, but yeah, I think I do use through my iCloud. Like I save them all in there, so every time I need to look, I can take a look. Or I would just do forget password and go all over again. But yeah, I'm not sure how secure they are, which is a big issue. I need to think about it now. But I think I'm very dependent on it because it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. I am
Yeah,
pretty
Botan,
dependent too.
what do you think of password managers?
Oh, well, they are an integral part of my life. So I think Google has most of my passwords, which is a bit worrisome since they removed their original motto, which was "Don't be evil," like 3 years ago. So they got rid of
Okay.
that. But I try to keep the more important stuff right here, the only place I can actually protect. Like I
That's a
maybe
better
Uh-huh.
way.
have maybe three important passwords in my life, like banking, PayPal, stuff like that.
Okay.
And those I try to not write down anywhere under any circumstances. Even if, like like one of the worst things I did is
Yeah.
have a bunch of passwords in Gmail. No, not Gmail, just Google Password Manager, Chrome. That's it. Also, there's this app, One Password, and also I used LastPass for a while. None of them really worked out, to be honest. I feel the great advantage of password managers, or at least of One Password, which I tend to use most, is that it can generate passwords for you.
I was
So I
about to
really
ask
like
you,
that.
like, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's a safe way to do it? I mean, I wouldn't do it. I'd never take the whatever the password they suggest because it's so confusing. I would never be able to even like remember it.
Well, it depends. Like the setting I use is usually 4 words and a minimum of like 15, 20 characters. So then it's reasonably easy to remember. Like a great
Yeah.
password. But I usually make this recommendation to friends, like they're struggling of keeping track of passwords. So I tell them to look at 4 things on their table, any 4 things in any order. So I would say, let's say, charger, uh, hairbrush, microphone, and camera. And then I just string these 4 words together with a dash, and boom, ultra secure password cannot be cracked for millions of years.
Yeah, you're right.
And all of that replace something with a special character or replace something with a number. It just doesn't work, and it makes me so furious when a website is like, "Oh no, mate, you have 40 characters, but you need to add one number and one special character. It's very important."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm actually mad those times.
But think about it. Like it's just like lottery. Like Dave, we have the super lotto and stuff, right? Some people just buy one number, keep it for years. Let's say there's a one hacker keeping one number, keeping it for years. You generate the same number, he's gonna get to you. Just saying, you might not. But I'm saying there's always a possibility because they wouldn't do like they're not gonna think about it. They might generate it like with random numbers or so. Um, yeah, I feel like if they have a lot of them and they are just like using that combination on you, is still gonna work. But yeah, you're right. I think the best thing to do is like the very good thing I like whenever someone tries to use my Gmail or even tries to like log into it, I would get the notification on my phone, hey, someone is trying to like log in into your account from this particular location on this browser. Would you allow it? So I think that's the best thing I like about Gmail or Facebook or Instagram or any other thing. You can actually check like from where someone like tried to even log in into it.
Yeah, two-step authentication also is popular. Getting it sent to your phone. A bunch of services I recently signed up for. It's not an option. They demand that you do two-step. You don't
Hmm.
even have the option. That way they can make sure it's you who's getting it. It's a pain in the ass because then you have to go to your phone. You have to copy their email address or however they're doing it and type in their code and on the other hand, it's a little bit of a hassle, but it's definitely more secure, right?
It is. It is for
It makes
sure.
it
Yeah,
harder.
way more.
I'm sure there's ways that hackers can get around it, but
There
it's
is
not
this.
every hacker.
Dave, do you remember like a couple of years back there was an app which was actually making like someone can use your number, send messages through your phone, and like to your family or something. I think they actually. Do you remember Bhutan? I don't remember the name of it. I never used it, but it was there on App Store for a while. People were sending like messages
Oh,
to
really?
every other person. Like on the app, Dave, I'm gonna put your number in there, and I can use your number on my phone. I will
Oh,
get all
that's
the
cool.
messages. I can send all the messages, and people would think that's you.
I knew that for
Yeah, I
email
remember.
that's
I
easy.
remember hearing about that.
Yeah. Like there
I
were a few incidents which happened in my family too in New York. So someone called my sister-in-law and they said that my brother is in jail and they need this much amount of money, give me credit card or something. They were asking for the money and SSN and all that stuff. I mean, I'm glad she didn't do it because she saw his Snapchat or something somewhere, so she kind of figured it out. But if someone would panic, anything would happen.
do you?
Yeah, I know that scam has been done with people. I remember an app that had a controversy like that. I guess that's what it was, but I don't
Yeah,
remember the name of the app.
yeah, me neither. But it was there for a while.
Do you also enjoy videos where people are scamming the scammers, so to say?
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah, there's a couple of YouTube videos about that.
yeah.
But at that point, it's like, all this data from people, there's a matrix of data. So one organization or one person or whoever has some data, and then another has some other people's data or the same people, just different data. They can all be linked. I think a lot of data can be linked together, and people do that
Mhm.
with, I think, IDs, right?
oh right, yeah, we discussed this earlier. So the trick is that you have one ID for like Facebook, one ID at Google, one ID at
Yes,
I don't know,
there you
wherever,
go.
iCloud. And the problem starts when all of these IDs can be linked, and they can be linked reliably and consistently. Like,
Yeah.
as long as your banking details don't get mixed in there, it's fine-ish. But as
Mhm.
soon as all of your purchases can be linked, then we are done. But that's like 99% of humanity these days. So everyone has this huge amount of data, which is taken from their activities, their purchases, their everything. So it has gotten to the point where AI can better predict what we're gonna do than us. So there was this big, big debacle with Target many years ago, and I
Yeah,
love
when they
this
stole
story.
all the data.
No, no, no. Actually, they had this AI, this very rudimentary AI. Imagine like 10, 20 years ago. But by today's by today's standards, it's not even an AI. So there was this young woman who who went shopping to Target like quite often, pretty much the only
Mhm.
place she went to shop. And Target has these loyalty cards, as I hear, because there's no Target
They
here,
do.
so excuse
Yeah,
all of the
they,
inaccuracies.
they do.
They do,
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
So we have Tesco's, pretty much the same thing. So Target used to like track all the purchases, and based on that, they would send you coupons for things they thought you might need. And so the Target sent to her mailing address coupons for I think diapers and some other like child related stuff. And the big thing was that since she was still living with her very very religious family and didn't tell anyone about the pregnancy, everyone had to hear from Target that her
Oh my
little
god.
daughter is
Yeah,
pregnant.
That is so
Like,
I
crazy.
remember something about that. Yeah,
yeah, but that was decades ago. Imagine
yeah.
what we have now.
Yeah, there's that. And there was another incident with Target in which Target was doing business with Amazon, and Amazon was using AI to basically copy a lot of Target's processes and sales stuff. And Target found out and basically stopped using Amazon for their business and had to build it up themselves because Amazon was basically copying and taking all their data and using it for building up Amazon. So that in itself is kind of a different form of hacking in a way because it's accessing and taking IP and using it. Um, so, but yeah, the linking of data. I mean, I got a microchip embedded in me when I got vaccinated. So the government's tracking me. Oh, wait, I have a cell phone. They're tracking me anyways. Now they're
Yeah.
tracking me twice. And they're using this data to find out all about me because I'm the most interesting person in the universe.
Oh yeah, but now I have such excellent 5G connection whenever I hold my phone in my hands.
Yeah, that's kind of a strange thing. Well, I think we had a good discussion about cyber security, and I'm sure it will be a topic in the future as well.
For sure.
So it was a great
Mm.
conversation. And next month, we will have a different topic on ScreamingBox technology and business rundown. Well, thank you very much for taking this journey with us. Join us for our next exciting exploration of technology and business on the first week of every month and for our next podcast. Please subscribe, like, and follow us on whichever platform you are listening or watching us on. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and please let us know any subjects, topics, or anything else you'd like us to discuss in the next podcast on the comment sections or in a Twitter DM. Till next month, please stay happy and healthy.